another interview with Father Sunny, and I am very delighted to interview a newly ordained priest of the Diocese of Joliet today, somebody who's very familiar with me because I've lived with him on his first year as a priest. So I'd like to welcome in this forum Father John Horan, who is ordained last year, 2018, on June 26th. And he is about to reach the first year of his priesthood, which is actually on Sunday. So it's 2 days before his actual day, 1 year mark as a priest. So welcome, Father John. Thank you for this interview.
Thanks for having me.
The goal of us for this interview is actually to really have a bit of a glimpse at, what might it be like, for someone who is newly ordained, someone who is processing his first year experience as a priest, and what might it be like, when you're new in the priesthood, because I think it's kind of curious. I went through my first year as a priest, and now it's kind of a blur, and I wish that I had a way to kind of look back to it more clearly today. But anyway, hopefully this will be helpful for you, even as I interview you today. Years as
there you go.
Priesthood, something to look back to in the future.
No,
so, before anything else, I mean, you're gonna be 1 year a priest already in 2 days. So, what to you has been the most memorable thing about getting ordained?
Well, I can just say the weekend of getting ordained, it was full, packed. A lot of family, a lot of friends were around. Mm-hmm. So that was incredible to be around with everyone. Of course, it was a day me and my classmates were all looking forward to for many years, to get ordained. So then when I think about the ordination liturgy, the Mass, I remember moments of it, like especially some snippet of the homily, the feeling of walking in, of sitting up in front, and then the moments of ordination are less, they're kind of hazy even already, but I can remember that it happened.
Yeah.
I remember being special.
Sure. The actual laying of hands, when everybody's quiet there, when the bishop lays hands on you, was that a powerful moment in the ordination for you?
Yeah, I don't remember that much. It's sort of funny. Like right now, looking back on it, I just remember we all there's one response where you're supposed to say "I do" with the help of God, and we didn't say it. We all I don't know if something got messed up, but we all said "I do," and then I said with the help of God, and then they're like.
It's human liturgy, but the efficacy of that ordination is actually something that will remain for the rest of your life as a priest. And so that was a really special day. I remember being there, and I remember looking out from my place when I was there, because I was one of the vesters, and I was looking at all of you guys, and I'm like telling myself, wow, that's what an amazing thing. Even now at almost 15 years a priest for me, I think of it and I'm like, I'm still connecting to that day when I was ordained in that cathedral, and I still think about those moments that you're talking about. Maybe it's not 100% clear, but there's some highlights that show up there and maybe even as you move forward into the future, some of those you will regain a little bit more.
Well, I look forward to this weekend with Deacon Esther, the new priest of the new year, to see it again
from a different point of view. Yep. That's always a beautiful thing too. Like now you're seeing yourself as a priest and seeing somebody else go through it, and then you put yourself in that person in a different way.
And I went to my classmate's ordination, but this one is Joliet.
Yes, so something special. Yes. So, well, 1 year has passed. It's been a quick 1 year. I'm sure it feels sometimes times pass by just like that. In the ministry of the priesthood, it goes fast because our lives are very action-packed, and we're moving from one thing after another, and there's always never the same day. It's always different every day. So, when you look back at your 1 year, is there anything that you would say maybe perhaps became a sort of a framework of what your day as a priest usually looks like? What has your day been like? If there's anything that is more consistent, or maybe even your week, what has been kind of the highlights, of the usual highlights of your days and weeks and months as a priest?
Oh, so yeah, so for me, obviously we have the standard of praying the liturgy hours, and that was always, I guess that would be a pretty steady, that's probably the most steady thing that I have from day to day. Not that I pray it at the same time, but at least, you know, you're trying to pray that in the morning, afternoon, and evening, and night. So anyway, that keeps things regular. I would say typically we have Mass in the morning, either you or I, of course, celebrate Mass in the morning. And then I'll usually pray my morning prayer after that. And then take some time for breakfast, visit the office if it's like a weekday, see the people, the staff of our parish, and see if there's some phone calls or emails to respond to. And then, you know, it's all kind of like who knows what, depending if you have a funeral that day, if you have free time, if you have something to prepare for, like a talk coming up. It seems like that would all change what might happen next. But some of the, at least for me, like some of the week-to-week goals would be to visit the hospital, to visit maybe not a nursing home every week, but once in a while we would do that, to visit the school here in town, and maybe the east side once in a while, the clinic.
Our parish is a free clinic, our parish is a food pantry, and so you just go and visit and make a stop and find out how they're doing, and just be visible to people, being available.
Just float in, float out, but talk to people, pray with people. Yeah.
All right, that's good. That's amazing to have the initiative to do a ministry of presence and availability to people. Because I think sometimes, you know, when your days get really taken by all kinds of different things, agenda or a to-do list that you have to accomplish in a day, sometimes those get like overlooked. You know, to spend some time maybe going to this hospital, or especially at the school, the outreach programs that we have, in order to even just know if there's not something you can do for them there at that moment. And sometimes your presence is really enough for them to feel encouraged, or.
Well, they say they like seeing me there. At least.
Yes, I know it's actually
not like I do a lot. Just showing up.
And again, I think it's not so much about what we do sometimes, but it's about you know, that we are priests, and when they see us, when we are there, they see a presence of someone, before them, and some, you know, how they identify us with Jesus. So it's kind of like, oh, our Jesus is visiting us. The Jesus of our community is visiting us to to encourage us, or to know that to make us know that we exist. Something like that is sufficient. Very good. How do you balance your life as a priest then? You know, because in a week, there's so much so many things that happen. So how would you balance the different aspects of your life as a human being to remain healthy as a priest?
So I can return to what one of my old mentor priests told me, your classmate, Father Mark Cody.
Okay.
And I was with him during my internship, and so I would walk with him and maybe just follow him around a lot. But he said that he would divide the day into 3 parts, and surely he got that from somebody else too.
Yeah, our support group, we talk about that support group.
There you go. So, you know, you can probably correct me if I mess it up, but he said, you know, you have the morning, afternoon, and the evening, and you can say, I'm going to devote 2/3 of the day to the ministry, but at least reserve 1/3 of the day for some sort of like stability or personal care, or just simply saying downtime. Obviously, the 4th part would be sleeping, right?
Right, sure.
But at least those 2/3 of the waking day, he would put it that way so that you have in mind, I can keep 2 and say I'm gonna give, but not to give all 3, or else after like 2 or 3 days you're gonna be crashed.
Right, good. And then of course your day off is a Wednesday.
Yep. And the day off.
Between
is
he and I,
refreshment.
we have two different days off in order for us to have a little bit of downtime. One day a week we have a day off. So my day off is Monday and his is a Wednesday. So what do those day offs usually look like for you? On a day, what is a good day off for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know what a good day off is yet, so I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
But oftentimes what I'll do is sleep in. I might have gone away the night before to be at my parents' house or to visit a friend or a classmate. So often I'll try to go away from our parish just so that I have a change of pace. Other times I have stayed here, and I don't know. I don't think that was bad. But I don't know. Like
So it's different every time depending on what.
Yeah, I haven't made a good routine of it. But what I try to do is be outside more, and maybe just watch TV or something. I usually want to read. I'll say like I'll carry a book with, and I don't do as much reading as I would like.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Awesome. And so, have hobbies maybe in those downtimes, and maybe even in those days off that you have that you know on Wednesdays. Do you ever do a hobby, or how do you insert any of the interests that you have as a human being in your life as a priest?
well, I don't. It's pretty irregular, but I do like to go running, and so I try to keep that as a healthy activity and also like a sanity thing too. So that in the long day, like to take 45 minutes for a run or that exercise time really helps for the second half. Gives me more energy. So on a day off, I'll often take the time for a run as well. In the fall, I got to be on a soccer team, which was really a good thing, and that was Sunday nights. And so I was able to go for most of the games. I think I had to miss one because of a mass commitment, but thankfully that was an awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
When I told Father Dennis Settles about the first few months, he was asking what I was doing, and I said I was on that team, and he thought that was a good thing. He just said that sounds like a really good thing for you to do in your first year.
I agree. It's a good thing.
I was glad I had it.
Yes. And you're gonna do it again?
Well, I don't know. I would like to.
Just like
No word yet.
This next question is probably maybe awkward because I am your pastor right now that you work with, or it just maybe simply impossible to really answer because there are many choices usually in the life of a priest for you to be able to answer this question. But looking at the 1 year, are there particular highlights that would like stand out to you as far as the things that you did that made you feel enriched, encouraged, or maybe that you felt like your life as a priest is something really meaningful? Has there been anything that has happened within this past year that made you feel like, wow, this is really what I was hoping that my priestly life would look like? So is there anything like that that's come your way?
Well, I mentioned in our staff meeting the other day where we had that moment of prayer and people asked me that, I said I was really struck from the actions I have some opportunity for ministry in Gilman, Illinois, a town south of here, and I was struck by the Our Lady of Guadalupe feast celebration we have there. It's pretty special for the Hispanic community. Was seeing all the youth, the children of the parish, both acting in their performance and then singing a song, and I felt very fatherly watching them. So it wasn't something that I had done then, but that was when I felt very more like a father, priest father. So that was really special. I was watching. I was videoing it with my phone, and the play started to go long. Like it was like beyond 10 minutes.
Sure.
And I was thinking, this is gonna go a long time, but I didn't want to hang up the phone. I wanted to keep the recording going, and that's how I felt like a parent. But so that was very special internally, and something that we did here was when you gave me the opportunity to celebrate the Paschal the vigil for Easter, and that was really something special. But it didn't feel as special because I think I was worried about not messing anything up.
Well, that's normal, I think, especially when you're doing stuff for the first time. I'm sure a lot of your experiences of like doing things for the first time can be a lot about that. Making sure that you're doing things properly, looking at the right words, making sure that the rubrics is right, and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I think you'd get the hang of it because it's normal. It's what you do on a very regular basis. So it will be. Yeah. Anything else as far as that's concerned?
Other highlights? Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Those were two big ones for me.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
How have you been? How have you felt supported by the community? Because I always say this about priesthood. The priest is the people of the community. The priest is it belongs to the family that is the community, and also does not belong to the community. It's kind of like we're caught in a paradigm where we are in and out at the same time. We belong to the family, but we don't belong to the family because we are not going to stay here forever. So I guess by this first year, you are expected to feel at home. You expected to feel your sense of belongingness to the family of faith. How has that become? How did that happen to you, or has it happened? Because it's also possible that you don't feel that way, not at all. So how has that been, if at all?
Yeah. So you're asking how do I feel comfortable in the community? And I felt comfortable for a long time here in Kankakee, and I'm grateful for that. I feel like the people of the parish pretty much immediately said we're welcome. They actually said welcome to the family is what they said a few times, and they really did mean it. So I found myself being here without really knowing many people in town, but being able to meet many people in our parish. So as you're asking about priesthood, I also noticed that people would maybe talk to me different because I was a priest, and say they really did maybe make that welcome more immediate without really knowing me at all. So that was something new. I mean, as a seminarian, I had known what it would be like to be public as I was kind of going along and being in front of people. But now being a priest, I find that people are more willing to share with me things that I otherwise would never be privy to.
Right, that's a privilege in many ways for the priesthood to become welcomed in a community which nobody else would probably have the same experience if they're not a priest, and that's because of the people's general trust and confidence and devotion in the priesthood. The priest is coming to serve the people, and so why would they not give that priest a good welcome? When they know that that priest was sent by the Lord to them to serve them, the community, and to be there to love them. So that's I'm glad that you have that immediate natural kind of feeling of being made to feel at home and welcome in a community, because I think it sets a tone to your experience, to feel at home that way.
Yeah, and you mentioned the devotion to the Lord that people have and they express to the priest too. It's really unique, and it's honestly, it's an odd thing, because on the one hand, like I remember what someone would say. I showed up at their house and they say that you're the first priest to ever set foot in this house. Okay, it's just a Tuesday for me, so nothing too extreme, but they said that, and so for them that was pretty significant. But then on the other hand, sometimes people, at least I don't know, but I can see or I can kind of notice the devotion people have for the Lord Jesus, and then other people that maybe are more dismissive toward me as a priest, and it's really not about me. But I also wonder, are they dismissive to the Lord Jesus as well? That would be a question that I might feel,
Yeah. Just say it's their loss. That they don't want it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So, you kind of have been alluding to this a little bit already, but maybe the question I want to ask then is, what are your new discoveries about the priesthood that maybe you did not maybe even anticipate or expect or think about when you were still in the seminary, or when you were still getting into it, or maybe even getting ordained, that now you look back after one year like, yeah, wow, these are new discoveries I have about the priesthood? Is there any like that? You kind of have a little bit of
It's a big question, honestly, but I often would tell people that when they ask, is this everything you expected, and I said I didn't know what to expect, because I felt like, I was confident I was being called to it by God, but I didn't know like what the day-to-day would be like, and I still don't know what tomorrow's gonna be like. But anyway, some things that did surprise me would be just how tiring it can be to like celebrate masses all day or preach, and that you might ask later, like, what are some of the challenges? Preaching was definitely a challenge, because I would tell people, especially seminarians, like how challenging it would be to go on a Saturday and you had a daily mass homily, and then you might have a baptism with a homily, and then in the evening you had Sunday vigil, like a vigil mass with a different homily, and the first time that happened, I was about to be like passing out. So.
Yeah. There's a lot of sort of expectation for us to speak our mind and be a teacher, and keep make alive the word of the Lord that we proclaim. So there is in the priesthood, if you have a hard time talking in front of people, then you'll have a hard time. Or if you feel like a little bit still that you need. On my part, I mean, I never had so much of that challenge, because I was a teacher, and I was teaching philosophy for a few years, but enough to be able to feel comfortable that when someone asks me something, or when I'm giving a homily, or when there's a situation where I have to speak, I always go back to my basics, and then I kind of just come up with something even on the spot, but I know that it would still be okay. And sometimes when you don't have that, maybe perhaps you have that kind of exposure, it can be a real adjustment. Do you feel that? Did you feel that way?
Oh, actually I felt very prepared for being public again, like, and being in front and answering questions. I'm more nervous to be in front of cameras than to be in front of people, right? And that was a surprise. And I think what happened was I saw someone who was gonna make an announcement at a mass, and then she like backed out because she got nervous, and it was more like an invitation to some event. But I realized after that I hadn't been nervous. You know what I mean? And it kind of like it was just sort of like this moment where I was like, oh yeah, people get nervous to do this type of thing, and I feel like I'm beyond that. So that was a surprise.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld once said that the number one fear of people is public speaking. So if that is true, then some people would rather be in the casket than be giving a eulogy. Because the fear of death is not as high as the fear of speaking in public.
They'd rather be dead.
They'd rather be dead than speak in front of the public. So yeah, it can really be challenging, and that's part of the expectations. Especially when you are serving the community of faith in a parochial setting, like Father John and myself. But
and if I can go back to that last question too, you were talking about answering questions and teaching, and that was another surprise for me, is how ready people are to believe like what I would teach. So it seemed to me like a reminder to really make sure I have things straight, and like that I know what I'm talking about before I would say it. And the example of that was during Lent, and on like a feast day, like the Solemnity of St. Joseph, and I told somebody, like, you don't have to fast today. Like, I'm basically saying you can eat that chocolate bar that's right there. And they're just like, really, Father? Like, they're opening it, like, are you sure? And then I was like, oh, I hope I'm right. Like, I hope I'm not leading someone into error right here, but...
It is a big responsibility. Can you imagine that when people are relying on your message or your word for them to be guided in their own faith? I mean, come on.
Yeah, and chocolate, it's like it doesn't matter, but yeah, other things. Obviously, the balance is good.
Yes, teaching them about sin, for example, or what is moral and immoral, or how to be a good Christian, how to be a good Catholic. I mean, that can be terrifying if you think about the burden that's underneath or underlying that reality that we do, when we do that every day. In fairness, I am a witness that you don't seem like you are. That you seem very confident in presenting yourself there with your own point of view, and you never seem to have ever hesitated to share your story, even your own personal stories, and you've been confident in being able to say, this is what I think, this is how I see it. And I think it comes across to people as you being someone that they can rely on. So the more they ask you questions.
Well, I hope it's right.
That's a good thing.
I
That's a good thing.
Hope not misleading anyone.
Yes, and I think I have had my errors in my 15 years of priest, and I think I don't think that the people expect us to be perfect. I think the people expect us to have a goodwill, to be kind, to be forgiving. That is the fundamental expectation. But to be perfect and to never have error, I think is not an expectation. And I don't think the church expects that from us either. So I wash my hands from that fear. If I make a boo-boo, I'm so sorry, but I didn't mean it. I always. I try my best. Your priest always tries their best. But from a goodwill point of view, I want to say that the priests generally try their best, the best that they can give.
Well, and to actually to jump off of that idea, it's good that you say that, because how many times have I heard in 1 year about like bad priests, or about stories, or in the time in the seminary, people would just tell me, I was hurt by this priest, now I go to some other church. Now I go to not even the Catholic Church because of what one priest said to me one time. That's a big responsibility, to know that if I mess up, which obviously I do, but I wouldn't want to send somebody away.
Exactly. I just had a conversation with our cleaning lady today, talking about some priest that gave an advice that she thought did not help too much in encouraging someone to continue with the faith, but in fact kind of gave a pass in order for that person to no longer practice the faith, or to just feel judged by whatever the situation is. But anyways, so it can happen. It can happen. And is that a fear? I mean, obviously that's a fear for you.
It's not like I think about it all the time, but it's definitely something I see as a responsibility, or a caution.
To be careful. Awesome. That's good. What are you most grateful for about being ordained a priest?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a really great question. I'm grateful to be a priest just because it's been a really huge privilege to pray and offer sacraments with people, to be able to be in our parish. But I guess I might share how I was just in Rome with my family, and we took a trip to really celebrate getting ordained last year. So my sister, my parents, and I were all there together, and it was really great. We had 8 nights there. I also I'll just say some highlights of that. Seeing the Bones of St. Peter was my biggest highlight. So I loved that. And praying, getting to celebrate and con-celebrate masses at St. Peter's Basilica, even at the tomb of St. John Paul II. Yeah. That was the best.
Amazing.
So, but I was talking to one of our diocesan brothers, Father Mike Palowitz, and I asked him, do you get to do priestly stuff? Because he's studying canon law in Rome. And I was basically saying, are you still celebrating Mass for people, or, hearing confessions ever, or, do you do any baptisms now, But I said, are you doing any priestly stuff? And he said, look, everything I do is priestly.
It emanates from my very being.
Yeah, and he was correcting this attitude that I think is really common, to say it's in the function, when it's not, like what we are as priests, and the function is maybe our call, But anyway, so he was even saying, like, if he loses that, he'd be in like hot water, because like then you're gonna lose your identity as priests, because you're not doing those things as much in that world.
In other words, when we're sleeping as a priest.
Yeah, and to
And
quote
we
the
do that as a
bishop,
priest.
you asked what I remember from my ordination. I remember him saying in the homily at ordination, you shower as a priest, even in the shower. So the same thing.
It is exactly right. It is exactly right. It's because sometimes people associate priesthood with the duties of the priest that they know, like going, doing a sacrament for the sick, or hearing confessions or celebrating mass, praying. But everything that we do from the moment we wake up, and even as we are sleeping, all to wake up all the way to by the time we go to bed, everything in between is flowing from the fundamental identity that we have as a priest. And in that sense, everything is qualitatively priesthood or priestly, no matter what it is that we're doing. And God, God help us hopefully that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
It kind of reminds me of the I can say. November 3rd, 2016. It was the day after. Do you know, maybe? It's the day after Cubs won the World.
Oh yeah,
Cubs won the World Series.
Sure.
So I remember that waking up that next day, I really did think the sun was shining a little bit brighter, and the birds were prettier in the sky. So I think it felt like there was a difference in the world, But I think that idea is even more pronounced, like in priesthood, because it's something internal, and your whole being changes. So when you ask like what I'm grateful for, it's hard to name the thing because it's sort of like everything is now different.
And that is kind of the reason why when I ask him, what do you think stands out as a very special thing you're doing? I mean, it's kind of unfair because in some way, everything that we're doing has some special implication to the rest of everything else that we're doing,
Well,
so
yeah.
even sleeping when you do it in a holy way, when you're supposed to be sleeping and not watching TV until 3 a.m. You're supposed to be sleeping when you're supposed to be sleeping. It's holy, and therefore, as a priest, you're doing a holy thing even in sleeping, something like that. But I want to just take this opportunity as the priest that has witnessed in many ways, how you've been in your first year, to say that that Father John Horan was, what is the word for that? It was his first year, so rookie.
Yep, there you go.
We can say he's a rookie priest, but he really did his rookie year like a pro, as a seasoned priest. Yes, you
Rookie of the year?
I don't know who else are competing out there, But I believe that this community, and you heard it from the staff yesterday. Our staff just gave him all these beautiful words of affirmation of how he has been this year.
I didn't ask for it.
They just he doesn't have to, because even to me, people come to me to tell me how good he is, and I said, praise God, just tell him that, don't tell me, tell him, So, but it's a great thing to be able to see you, become even more comfortable in the things that you're doing, which from the very beginning you already had a high level of comfort. But I can see, I've seen you really, blossom and bear fruit, even in your first year, and it's a beautiful thing to see, that a priest who has been ordained is not like, groping in the dark somewhere, but that you have really embraced the priesthood in such an amazing way that people can see it and can smell it. They smell the holy work of the priest in Father John Horan. So I had the privilege of getting to know his family, his parents especially, and I know your family is very proud. I know your mom and dad are happy and proud of where you are today as a human being, as a priest, and I think it's an amazing thing to know when your parents are able to to witness this as well. So have you heard anything from your parents about any feedback that they've been giving you as far as what they might have known or seen in your first year?
Well, let me first say thanks for your coaching, as a pastor in my first year, and for the opportunity just to be thrown in, I appreciate you letting me kind of test my wings in that sense, But as far as what my parents said, I don't know, they'll sometimes say, sometimes I don't listen to my parents as much as I should. So no, I don't remember. I don't know what they say. Yeah, they'll usually say if someone tells them something from Naperville, or if they got they say saw this or that, they'll tell my parents and they'll tell me, but I don't usually remember
Okay.
a lot of it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And I just know, just by how your parents are, that they are very, very proud. Because I could see them in their eyes, the admiration that they have toward their son. I could see in their eyes, as I've seen them come here a few times this past year, and I could see that admiration that they have and what you have become and what God has done in and through you. So, you know.
I can tell you this, my dad just told me on Wednesday night, he said it's really cool that I bless the food when we have like a meal. He said it's very cool seeing you give the blessing.
It's a special privilege for you,
Yeah.
families of priests, that you have a handy,
more blessed
a handy
food.
blesser. So yeah, that's great. Fantastic. I think one of the things that can happen now, as you come from, you're coming from your first year, when you reach that moment in 2 days, to have, and I presume that you already have also looked at that trajectory of maybe your years of priesthood, because here in Kankakee, my first pastor as a priest, that would have been who you are to me as I was to him back in the day, 15 years ago. Father Tony Nugent, who is a pastor in one of the neighboring churches around here, is actually retiring this year. And so he was describing to us in one of those conversations, like where he was from one parish to another, and then it was not many parishes, but he had like some opportunities.
And 3 as a pastor.
Right. So and in those years, he says like, yeah, I've been here. So I was, even as a priest now in 15 years, I started to kind of look at the trajectory of my own priesthood. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? What are the things that are defining my priesthood? Jesus priesthood in me over this 15 years, and you are starting this. So there is almost an opportunity for you to like lay down some kind of a map that you can discern, like where might you lead, for the next 15, 20, 30, 50 years. When you think about that kind of stuff. Is that fair? Is that fair? I don't know. But
where do I see myself?
What are the things that you would like to see yourself maybe to even do as you move forward? Like, or maybe another way of asking the question is, what are the areas of your ministry as a priest that you feel like you want to take this to another level, or maybe what are the things that you feel like might define who you are as a priest in the future?
It's a good question. It's tough to answer, and obviously, our plans can be so wrong. Not wrong, but maybe you just don't know what God's plans are. Mm-hmm. But I do have a desire to continue learning, and I'd like to teach. And I don't know if that could be in a high school or something, but I would think I would enjoy that, or grade school, whatever it is. But yeah, I think I'd like it. Maybe the students, maybe they'd like it. But that's something I think would be really a great opportunity. I also think I understand that the bishop's plan is to say you'll be a pastor, so prepare to be a pastor, and so very much that's sort of where I would see myself, Mm-hmm. So I can say I have to get more attuned to the life of the parish, as well as dealing with questions of finances and groups and vision, vision for a community. So those types of things are places where I could see I need to grow. But I don't. It's not like I have any grand schemes. And people sometimes ask, like, what would be the ideal parish? But I've never had an answer. It's not something that I've really considered too much.
Mm-hmm. I respect that. I respect that very much. There's no any type of agenda or any type of expectation other than perhaps discerning what God wants you to do at that particular moment. And that's you be guided by one step at a time in your discernment as to what the Lord wants you to be in your priestly ministry in the future. Amazing. I like that.
Well, I can say already, it's not that I didn't want to go to Kankakee, but
Yeah, sure.
I can at least say that one of my classmates thought I got the worst assignment of the bunch, and so I think, I wasn't too. When he said that, I knew that was kind of like a exaggeration, but ultimately, I am confident that God is gonna be guiding these things, and so like what's good for you is really like good for you, and so it's meant to be, and I think in some ways maybe the same guy would like kind of maybe he wishes he could switch it around. I don't know.
Very good. I'm very proud that I have been given the opportunity actually to work with you here at St. John Paul II Parish here in Kankakee. And for those of you that think this is the worst assignment, I tell you, you have no idea. I feel like this is a good parish. I feel like this is a good community to start, building your priestly identity in, because they love their priests, and it's a very solid community of faith, really. There's a lot of things here that you cannot find anywhere else in the Diocese of Joliet, I think. As far as ministry is concerned, especially about specific pastoral challenges that they need to address here with their priest. I think there's a lot of things you'd learn here, and you'd find that wherever God has sent you always has a reason for wherever you're supposed to be led into the future. So take this as the first good step, to where else God is going to lead you. On that note, I want to say thank you to you for your first year as a priest here in Kankakee, and I am just a pastor. I always operated in the same principle that my very own pastor father, Don McLaughlin, has taught me about the priesthood, which is we're here together to work together and to be together and to serve God's people together. I just happen to be the one that is to make the tougher decisions in the parish at large. But this is the kind of the beauty of ministry is that we are supposed to be both together here to be able to do the work of ministry that the Lord has entrusted to both of us in the priesthood. So it's been a privilege working with you in your first year. Refreshing to be able to see someone so young, so grounded in the faith, and so willing to reach out there and taking initiatives and everything else. So I might go on and on with all the praises myself, but I just want to wish you well in this next year, and I hope you do get to learn more about all those things to prepare you to become because I know you'll be an excellent pastor, but there will be some ways by which you can prepare today to get there. Some of those things include just have a better understanding of how the parish works, and looking at the finances, looking at the software of parishioners, stuff like that, but hopefully we have time to kind of work on that this year. But and for the purpose of what we're trying to do here, I want to say happy first year anniversary to Father John Horan, ad multus annos, and may the Lord continue to guide you and bless you with His Holy Spirit as you move forward into your years of priesthood. So for those of you that think that to be a priest is not cool, and it's only for the old people, or it's for the people, there are many different ways that you can think about the priesthood. Whatever it is that you think the priesthood is, you see someone like Father John, who's very young and also very gifted, very confident, with good skills like soccer and music and all that good stuff. He got very successful in many other fields we would have chosen, but the Lord chose him to be a priest, and see how God makes that work in his own life today, because he said yes, to the call to follow the Lord in the vocation that he has been called to do. So congratulations, and thank you for being with us in this interview today. So this is Father Sonny Castillo for hapipadi. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you.